Chit Gita Dhyana. Everyone should have a printed copy. Christian? Yeah, okay. Om Bhagavad Gita,
by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord
Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us, O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd boy Krishna. Arjuna is the calf. People of purified intellect are the drinkers. The milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the source of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. Hari Om Tat Sat. I was just reflecting on and marveling at the circumstances by which we met Yami and Yami's time with us yesterday. Quite something, huh?
Yes.
The Supreme Lord. Okay. So we pick up with the Supreme Lord continuing to teach. We transition from yoga of renunciation into the yoga of meditation this morning. So we'll just come back and we'll pick up the rest of this commentary that Swami Satchidananda is wanting to share. We were discussing at the end of the discussion yesterday morning about withdrawing awareness from the external things. And that's not meaning eyes closed, drawing into some separate self. That's not meaning that. It's meaning a negation through discernment, through the eye of discernment, the eye of wisdom. A negation of that which is unreal. That's what it means. So, but also he's beginning to teach meditation practice here. So this is a transition that's starting to happen after teaching karma yoga, the principle of karma yoga, the principle of renunciation, that renunciation means renouncing personal self-interest and personal fruit, expectation of fruit or desire of fruit for myself, little self. So, and he's been very consistent about this, right? Not wanting to leave any room for doubt. And so from there, he's now moving into teaching meditation. But everything here is not exactly. Here's the thing. The words themselves are as they are. The words themselves have meanings. But we each, based upon our own conditioning, have our own ideas of what the words mean, which are, first, not really. If we look at Webster's, we're constantly surprised. Wow, really? That's what that means? First. And then secondly, the meaning of the word has to be taken into context. And so we talk sometimes with people who are studying the Bible, and they'll say the Bible is to be taken literally, and I can't disagree. I say, yes, absolutely, the Bible is to be taken literally. That means, though, that you need to understand the meaning of the words and the context of the words, and you need to understand the teacher and where the teacher is coming from, and what is the object being shared, what is the lesson that's being shared. If we can grasp the concept, then something can be taken literally, but otherwise, if we try to take it literally, then, in other words, does every word in the Bible have meaning? Yes, it does. Does every word in the Bhagavad Gita have meaning? Yes, it does. Absolutely, yes. But if I pull it out and take it out of context, then my idea of the meaning, will that be valid? No, it won't. So we're taking a moment with this because, again, withdrawing sounds like, but really it's Swami Premananda's meaning, what he was sharing when he said, to enjoy the world, one has to treat it like a banana and peel it first, which means we have to take the names and the forms away, out of our awareness, and get to the essence of it. And that's really the meditation. It's really, in fact, when we experience meditation, this is what we experience. As we experience non-separate beingness. So, but he does give practice here, and Swamiji will take some time with it. It says, by withdrawing attention from external things, so we pull our attention away from the names and the forms, mentally focusing back between the eyebrows and equalizing the in and out breaths, thus you control the mind, the senses, and the discerning intellect. Then, by aiming for nothing else but absolute and unconditional freedom, moksha, personal desires, fear, and anger naturally drop away, and you undoubtedly experience final liberation. So here's what Swamiji said. We read the first paragraph yesterday. How easy it is to say, shut out all external things, focus between the eyebrows, balance the in and out breaths, control the senses, mind, and intellect. Only pursue liberation, cast away desires, fear, and anger, and then you are a liberated sage. The first thing to do is withdraw the mind from external things. That doesn't mean closing your eyes, nose, ears, and everything. It means don't get distracted by these things. Develop dispassion, which is detachment from the objects of the senses. Then he speaks of meditation. Focus between the eyebrows. It doesn't need to be between the eyebrows. It could even be crown chakra near the top of the head. So now practice. It doesn't always mean with the eyes open, and it doesn't always mean with them closed. He means the mental gaze. Equalizing the breath means very gentle breathing. If your concentration is well focused, the breath becomes balanced automatically. You don't even have to do anything consciously. You might have noticed this even when you're working. If you're totally concentrated on something, such as a math problem, or just deeply thinking, or while writing an article, wondering what to do next, what happens? The breath stabilizes. That's the point, right? At that moment, if you notice your breath, you'll see that it's almost stopped. And that's equalizing the breath. When the mind is still, the breath is still. When the mind is still, the breath is still. So that's one of the secrets of Raja Yoga, right? When the mind is still, the breath is still. And also when the breath is still, the mind is still. So we learn that. So if we want to stop the thoughts, if we're starting to be overwhelmed by thoughts, what's the first thing to do?
Breathe. Slowly breathe.
Regulated breath. If you want to stop the thoughts, what do you do? If you want to stop the thoughts, what do you do?
Chant. Focus.
And stop the breath. Kumbha.
Death.
The next time you're practicing Kumbha, next time you practice pranayama, I'm sure you've seen it. That when you're practicing pranayama, anuloma viloma, or we have a longer retention when we're practicing the Kapalabhati, right? So that 45 seconds or 1 minute or whatever, look at the thoughts during the time that you're holding the breath. You'll see that they've stopped or nearly stopped. So he speaks to the connection between, if the mind is still, the breath is still. So if the thoughts are reasoned, not emotional, not self-centered, And the mind is focused, and we see the breath is still moving, but still. He says it can go the other way also. If you can't still the mind and through the mind stop the breath, then try to stop the mind by quieting the breathing. That's why we do a little pranayama before meditation, because breath and mind go together. The sage Tiruvalluvar says, wherever the mind goes, the breath runs. When the mind is agitated, the breath becomes agitated. When the mind is calm, the breath is calm. When coming out of deeply concentrated thinking, you take a big sigh because your breath had completely stopped. It's natural retention, kumbha. It's not that you took a breath consciously and held it, it just stopped by itself. It says all these steps in meditation are connected with each other. If you do one, the others come automatically. So whichever is easy for you, begin that way. Either detach from external things if that's easy, or fix your mind on a chakra if that's easy, or equalize your incoming and outgoing breaths, or control the senses, control the mind, control the intellect, or cast away your desires, fear, and anger, whichever is easy. They're all different links to make the chain. By pulling on one link, you get the whole chain. So that's Swamiji's commentary. He says, try it and become a liberated sage. That's Swamiji. He says, try it and become a liberated sage. And you see the linkage between all of those? Mm-hmm. So meditation, again, meditation is not a practice. There's a practice of meditation, and the two don't want to be confused. So, and this is such a common misunderstanding that you sit and therefore you're meditating. And then we'll have the idea that all meditation is while seated. It's also not so. Meditation is a state. It's a state. It is a state that is natural to you. You are the meditator. That'll be completely misunderstood too, of course. You are the silence. You are the peace. You are the light. The experience is otherwise, and Lord Krishna says it. You are the self, capital S self. That's not the experience because of the veiling, because of the tossing mind and the endarkened mind, like this. So when we sit for meditation or any of these other practices of meditation, we just went through the whole list. These are all practices of meditation. Thinning out the desires, the personal desires, is a practice of meditation. Karma yoga, selfless service, is a practice of meditation. All of these are practices of meditation. So what's happening is you're removing the veil. Self-inquiry is a practice of meditation. Discernment is a practice of meditation. And as the veils are being removed, then you have more and more opportunity to experience the peace within, which is your own true nature, right? So somebody will say, this particular practice of meditation is always best for me. I try to do it all the time, but it doesn't always work. Something like that. And the teacher will say, karma yoga. And the student will say, why? Karma yoga, I just need to sit and meditate more. And the teacher will say, no, you need more preparation for meditation. Right? You need more preparation for meditation, which is all of this. And then the experience of meditation is the experience of losing what you think of as yourself. Right? So when separation vanishes, when one is conscious, aware, but not clouded by ideas of separation or the run-on mind about the long list of things that are supposed to be done right now, or what I need, or what I should have done, or what someone said to me earlier today, any of these, It's described as the absence of. The Buddha was asked after his 7-year stint at meditation, what did you get from it? And Christian, his answer was, I got nothing, but I'll tell you what I lost, which was anger, hatred, fear, greed, delusion. So the experience of meditation is best described as the absence of what we consider to be normal life. And when we have that experience of the absence of what we consider to be normal life, you experience that taste of bliss, then that's the state of concentration or meditation. Okay. So 29, finishing this yoga of renunciation. Whoever knows me as the Lord of self-sacrifice and asceticism, as the master of the universe and as the friend of all, reaches the state of supreme peace. And thus ends the 5th discourse of the Bhagavad Gita, the science of yoga, entitled the Yoga of Renunciation. So we begin chapter 6 this morning. Chapter 6 is the yoga of meditation, so natural transition, right? Really, the whole of the Bhagavad Gita is a flow. He's moving us from one step to the next.
Because it's a song, right?
Sorry?
It's a song. Song of God.
Yeah. Song of God, indeed, yes. Flow. So here's where we start with chapter 6. The Blessed Lord said, if you do your duties without desiring the fruits for yourself, if you are a true renunciate, sannyasi, and a true yogi, unlike those who live without sacrifice and devotion. If you do your duties without desiring the fruits for yourself, you are a true renunciate, sannyasi, and a true yogi, unlike those who live without sacrifice and devotion. Renunciation is the essence of yoga, Arjuna. You don't become a true yogi until you renounce personal desire. So again, he reminds us of what's to be renounced, right at the beginning of the teaching on meditation, right? Why do you suppose we have to be reminded so often?
I think of Swami Shivananda, he said something about it's so integrally structured into the mind if we don't train it.
And for all of us sitting here and joining and vibrationally, again, renouncing personal desire and aversion are the same.
Calms the mind.
Raga dvesha. Desire and aversion are exactly the same. So if you want something for yourself, that's a personal desire. If you want to avoid something for your own benefit, that is a personal desire. It's not different. Just hear it. That's a completely different way of living than what we're accustomed to living in the West. Right? And all of the self-help instructors, all of them, making how much money teaching us the wrong way and the way that only leads us to more suffering. How many? They're everywhere.
It's more raga.
Sorry?
Oh, I was just going to say, you're saying it's more raga.
It's more raga dvesha. More raga dvesha. So it should not go unnoticed that this teaching is really advising us the opposite of what most everyone would say. So everyone will say in this time, you have to do for yourself, you have to take care of yourself, you have to take your time and all of this. But look at the results. Look at the results. No one is happy. So after a while, we should figure it out that it doesn't work.
I need to go to counseling.
I mean, it does work. And one thing, it cleans out our pocketbook.
I end up thinking, well,
Sorry,
what's
dear.
wrong with me? What am I doing? How come I can't get it? What's wrong with me?
Yeah, I'm going to the spa. I'm doing this. I'm fighting to get what I need. That's what everybody says you need to do.
Strive.
I need a vacation.
But there's no satisfaction of it. The entire universe wouldn't satisfy the ego principle.
One's too many, 1,000's many.
So renunciation is the essence of yoga. If you don't become a true yogi until you renounce personal desire. Karma yoga, selfless service, is the way of the wise in order to attain the state of yoga. Serenity is the nature of those who have reached that state. Serenity is sama. So when we hear the term samadhi, that's a serene intellect. D is the intellect. So have reached the state of serenity. You experience the true yoga state when you let go of attachment to sense objects and the desire for the fruits of your efforts. And then we'll pick up the next two. And the next two we'll continue with, actually tomorrow morning I'm in Yuma, Monday morning I'm coming back. So Tuesday morning we will. But anyway, you or Hari will also be on the next. So you'll pick up tomorrow morning at 5 and 6. And we'll read a little bit now about 5 and 6. We started there. Who was here with us when we started the Bhagavad Gita morning study?
You mean the first time back at the old ashram?
No, this round.
Yeah, I was here.
You were here. Our dear Swami Ramaswarupananda had taught me, and I learned the hard way one day, by beginning the teaching of Bhagavad Gita with these next two slokas. And we did that. So it's this. Five and 6. Let a man lift himself up by his own self alone. Let him not lower himself. For this self alone is the friend of oneself, and the self alone is the enemy of oneself. The self is the friend of the self for him who has conquered himself by the self, but to the unconquered self, this self stands in the position of the enemy, like the external foe. This is a more classical translation of it. We'll read Swami Satchidananda's. It's a more modern. He says, you can rise up through the efforts of your own mind, or in the same manner, draw yourself down, for you are your own friend or enemy. Mm-hmm. As you gain control of your mind with the help of your higher self, then your mind and ego become your allies, but the uncontrolled mind behaves as an enemy. So the concept, we hear it lots of different ways, but the mind can be our master, and it's a horrible master. Or it can be our servant, and it's a wonderful servant. If our mind is running the show for us, we go from suffering to suffering to suffering, from death to death. If our mind is running the show for us, if our mind is in charge of us. But if we're in charge of our mind, then we can have a glorious life. Christian, just a quick concept to deal with that. Mind, when we say mind, generally speaking, we're talking about reactive mind or subconscious mind. As differentiated from intellect, intellect is conscious mind. But also as differentiated from the intuitive It's all for intuition, which is the highest of all of these. Jung called what in the yoga tradition gets called intuition or God, Guru. Jung called it the superconscious. Superconscious. So superconscious or intuition is above all of this. The subconscious mind is completely reactive and conditioned. It's like a computer that you programmed over a long period of time, and now it just reacts this way. If Joe shows up and you had a bad experience with someone that looked like Joe, then it'll get angry just like that, right? So the conscious mind, you have the ability to reflect, but reflect upon what? But the intuition is a clear guide. Clear guide. Here, Krishna and intuition are the same. Krishna is inside. Lord is inside. Intuition is inside. Oh.
Yeah, Swamiji, the only thing with that though, just from my experience, is that it's so easy for the reactive mind to play the role of intuition, because it's like, you
It does.
A lot in the West, it's like, I'm going with my heart on this move, or I'm going with my heart on this person.
Yeah.
And it's actually just instinctive
That's exactly
tendencies that are,
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a concept of the heart being the emotional.
Yeah.
So it's as a result, we can easily say we're all one, but the actual getting to it is not so easy. Because in fact, we'll have to set aside every notion and belief that we've ever held. We have to set them all aside, suspend all of them, and allow ourselves to get to what's deeper than that. But to get deeper than that requires the same mind that's the troublemaker now. Right? So the same mind that led me from experience to experience, from this drug to this drug, from this job, from this woman, this man to this one, the same one that never found that satisfaction that it said it knew the way to.
Okay, claim that. Oh, wait.
I need it in order to transcend it. Right? So what's a simple thing, for example? How can I train the mind in order to help me to transcend the mind? I teach the mind how to breathe properly. Right? I teach the mind how to breathe through this body properly. Can you do that? Yeah. I teach the mind to get me up early. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah? I teach the mind to avoid the things that it's interested in that always cause pain, like drink, drugs, whatever. We all have a list. Yeah. So I teach the mind to stay away from those things, right? Can we do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intelligently.
I teach the mind to sit at 6 a.m., sit this body at 6 a.m. for meditation every day, yes? So the mind can be taught. Who's teaching the mind is a bit mysterious, but that's related to Krishna and the power of discernment. So the same mind that's been troublemaker for us, the same mind that's been a problem, as it were, is the same mind that we rely upon to get to transcend the mind. If we're to recognize that we are not this body, if we're to recognize that we are not even these thoughts, then the mind will be the vehicle, the instrument that supports us on the journey. If we listen to it and trust it, that's not going to work. But if we listen to the light, whether it's coming in the form of a scripture, an awakened teacher, or our own intuition, if we're able to really clearly identify our own intuition, and if we listen to the light, then the light will guide us and help us to train the mind and create an environment that allows for success or supports the success. What's highest success? Self-knowledge. So,
Question.
yes.
I find my intuition I know it's different from the intellect, because I get into that intuition, but it seems when I'm in the deepest intuition is when I'm alone, silent, calm, and I've spent the whole day in preparation of that peace in the afternoon where I contemplate for 2 hours. And then everything is so clear. But why does it take so long in a day? Is it because I have to be...
Because for 100 billion births, you've been doing the opposite.
Right.
That's why. You have a habit, a big habit, a long habit.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're going to unwind it, you're going to have complete and absolute commitment.
Which I have.
And you stick with it. Abhyasa yoga. You just stick with it. You just stick with it. For most of us, our experience really in terms of intuition will be in deep sleep only. We'll wake up and have some intuitive, because we've covered everything up so deeply.
What came to me yesterday in my contemplation was different tendencies of different thicknesses of veils.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's true. It's true. So, but it's here, and then when we're really successful in breaking through and having some experience with meditation, then we'll get intuitive flashes in meditation.
Oh, yes.
We can say that meditation is a very scary thing, because when you really have the experience with meditation, then you will have intuitive flashes, and those will be often inconsistent with what you want to do.
Always. They're always to learn something new.
Yeah.
The intuition contradicts ragadavesha, you could say.
It does. I had no interest in walking across the country, for example. So. But it's fair to say that when we say that we're in touch with our intuition, that's ego.
So we shouldn't say
Right.
anything.
Because it's very, very hard. It's very, very hard. It really requires a complete getting out of the way.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's almost like the deeper down you go towards the core of the ego identity, the harder it is. I don't know. It's almost like it gets easier, but it also gets harder at the same time. Because you had a little bit of experience letting things go, but now it's like deeper to the core.
Oh. Okay, so we'll pick up here in the morning. Anything else? Any other comments, questions, observations?
So that was an egotistical statement that I made.
Who says?
Didn't you?
Who says?
So I just have to look in tide. I contemplate on that later.
So there's in the Buddhist tradition, I remember a comic strip about someone sitting for meditation. I know what it is. Two practitioners are talking with each other.
Okay.
And one of them says to the other, "I'm doing such a good job of meditating, I'm almost there."
I've heard that one. So it's best not to discuss that with anyone.
Well, it's not that. It's you have the experience of intuition. So we'll take a moment with it. You have the experience of intuition. And actually the observation that you made, Hara, about that mostly when you experience intuition, it's when the mind has really been quieted. Mm-hmm. And you've spoken to what times those are. And it's a very good, very fair assessment. You're using discernment. So I have to say, no, it's not. The observation you made was not ego tainted. It's not about that.
Oh, okay.
No. We're simply saying that it's correct. You will have to really engage in sadhana, really be aware of the ability of the reactive tendencies and the ego assertions, really be aware of their ability to mask and cover. And it's interesting as we go deeper, there are all of these protection mechanisms within the psyche to protect these ideas that aren't serving us.
It's like a network.
Yeah.
Like a computer. Wow.
You know, it's enough for this morning. It's a good discussion. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. The more we're able to discern the difference between real intuitive guidance and self-centered assertions, the more we're able to discern the difference between the two, the better. And we're often Peace Pilgram would point out that we're often dealing with mixed motives also. So it can be very, very difficult and very confusing. And it really requires strong discernment, strong commitment, and continuing to look and determine what is the motivation of this. Mixed motives. So a man wants to make money. Part of the motive for that is that he wants to have the pleasures in life, but also he's caring for a family and he wants to be able to support the family. So it's mixed motives, right? That's a pretty typical situation in terms of what we deal with in the world. So how do you parse it? So there's really much work in this inner world. You know, Yummy shared something so beautiful yesterday in terms of dealing with this inner, because she spoke to this part of her that says this or said that, and then she would say what it was saying, right? It said, part of her would say, you shouldn't be here doing this, right?
What a humility to say that.
Wow, that's it. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, do you hear voices like the ones that she was talking about yesterday?
That's
Whoever
what
was
she
in?
and I spoke
Do you hear those voices inside, right?
Yes.
So, but what was remarkable is she had, and this is something that has to be cultivated, she had the discretion to recognize that it was a self-serving voice, that it was a self-centered voice, right? And she would say to it, you know, I love you, dear, but I have to do this.
Yeah.
Right? Because she felt the calling to serve by sharing the message, by being opening herself up to the world, sharing things that were personally very painful.
Yes.
That this voice didn't want to share.
Right.
Right?
And that's what I contemplated last evening that got me to that, of the veils, was she and I spoke after, and she brought up through those words you just stated, that the ego is also fearful and doubtful.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what she and I spoke of at the end.
Of course.
That nasty little ego.
So it's that discernment to actually see that inner sea.
Yeah.
And to be able to recognize what's self-serving and what's selfless.
Right.
What is reactive, what is ego-centered, and what is intuitive. And she spoke of the intuitive coming as a download, which also is an interesting way of relating to it. Here, this is a download. Lord Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. Arjuna is representing the one of purified intellect. So Arjuna is us after some purification of intellect. Arjuna is us. Lord Krishna is speaking with us. Is not Krishna speaking with us a download?
Yes.
And where is it coming from? Within us.
Yes.
That's the intuition, right? That's the voice of intuition. Oh. Okay. All right, so a good place to stop for the morning. Page 174, the final prayers and arati. Om Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvai Rukmeva Bandhanan Rechor Mukshiyamam Retata Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvai Rukmeva Bandhanan Rechor Mukshiyamam Retata Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvai Rukmeva Bandhanan Rechor Mukshiyamam Retata Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, let us abide in thee forever and ever. O beloved Satguru Shivananda Maharaj Ki, and for all of the saints and sages of all traditions. And short arati, please, right?